Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button. I am one of your hosts, Alejandro. With me is the Kojima simp.
Paul, hey everybody.
How
How's
you
it
doing?
going?
How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing awesome. It's a good time to be a Kojima fan, let me tell you.
Absolutely.
Um, and I really hope that a lot of what we're talking about is all true because if it is, that's going to make me a very happy
Yeah,
person. How have you been doing though?
I've been doing good. How are you surviving the great Facebook outage of 2021?
I'm
That's
doing
wrecking all
great.
our communication tools.
It sucks that we can't actually communicate, which we usually use like Messenger and such. But besides that, I try to avoid Facebook like the plague,
Yes.
so I am great right now. I'm sure a lot of my friends and family, especially, are losing their minds.
Oh, yes. And
But
I'll just say this. This is the perfect example for why one company owning too many things under its umbrella, it's such a horrible idea because look, everything that Facebook owns right now, it's down. It's hilarious.
I know,
So
right?
yeah, and at first I was like, is my internet wrong? And then I called in as my internet provider. They were like, oh yeah, they already have the prepared message of like, we're having
Really,
issues. Yeah, literally, I called them and they said, oh yeah, we are having issues connecting to Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. Sorry for the inconvenience. So I was like, well, I guess they have been getting a lot of calls already. So
yeah.
and then you told me it was having problems. I was like, I thought it was just an El Salvador thing, and apparently it's a problem there too.
I don't know if you saw any of that just now. My cat came flying
No, I didn't.
at the screen. He just jumped behind the monitor a second ago, but
That's
I
awesome.
wasn't expecting it, and it spooked the heck out of
I
me.
tell you, watching cat, I absolutely love watching cat videos pursuing rats because for some
Oh
reason
gosh.
cats can run at the speed of sound. I don't know. They have a way to like run so quickly. I don't know how they do it. It's like,
I don't either, but like they can control it so perfectly. One of my friends has a dog and a cat, and the cat will run just enough to stay out of the reach of the dog, so the dog just keeps chasing it until it tires itself out. It's really funny.
yes. So housekeeping.
Anyway,
So
yeah.
yeah, so for people I noticed, yes, we have officially are now in this era where we're recording on Mondays our news section, and then on Wednesday you receive what we have been playing and a topic of Paul's choice. And on Thursdays for audio listeners, they get a version of that show that's basically spliced both what we recorded on Monday and Wednesday together. However, I made the mistake of not also providing a full version of the two things also for video listeners, so or viewers. So for anyone that likes listening or watching us on YouTube, you're gonna and you don't want to do the I just want to hear the news or just want to hear what they've been playing, but I want to hear everything together. There's gonna be an option for you. Also on Thursday, just at the same time as it goes live on audio, whatever we record on Monday and Wednesdays is gonna also be all together on Thursdays if you like to consume it that way. And for those that just want to consume one thing or the other, you're gonna have that option. That way, we're gonna feed the god that is the YouTube algorithm because
Hopefully.
it really sucks that you have to be uploading a lot for you to be noticed here. So
Yeah. And another thing with housekeeping, Alejandro, do you want to talk about the thing that we might do later today, or did you want to keep that as a surprise?
no, we can tell now, like
All right.
especially now that the Halo Infinite flight has been is basically getting close to being done. I think there's a few more days of the flight yet. Paul hasn't played Halo for a while. I did a little. When was the last time you played Halo, Paul? Just for
When I finally downloaded the collection, I played a little bit of Reach. So like the first 4 or 5 missions of that. But that's
okay,
the last time I've
yeah,
played
you
Halo.
played it very late because Reach arrived like in 2019.
Well, oh no. So I played the Master Chief Collection on
Mhm.
computer this year.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
But it was Reach on only a little bit of it. So I
Yeah,
haven't touched like the
Reach was the
mainline
first one
story.
actually that came out to PC. Ironically,
Right.
that's how they released
Um,
it.
so I haven't actually touched the mainline story in a very long time. I watched my brother play a little bit of the Halo 2 to see all the cool cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen or played any of the rest of it in a really good while. So this is going to be like I hope it's gonna like reawaken some kind of childlike vibe to
Yes.
me. I'm gonna try to voice all of that as I think about it
Mm-hmm.
because it's all gonna be Alejandro's gameplay with me in the background doing something stupid like driving a warthog
Yes.
off a cliff.
Yeah, so basically, not to bury the lead, we're gonna be streaming our playthrough of Halo from the first one all the way until 5.
Yes.
Like as much as time allows us, as we build towards the release of Halo Infinite on December 8th. So we have 2 months. So, and I played them
fill it a
often.
little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know if you wouldn't mind just playing it in the easiest difficulty so you can just blast through, unless you want to do hardcore and do heroic, because I know
I could maybe deal with heroic. That's what I did at my strongest in Halo.
Mhm.
But legendary was a nightmare, especially on the was it the skull that if one of you dies, it just resets.
I think that was on
I
Reach.
did that.
Reach is the hardest in co-op. Reach is unbearable. Well, actually, Reach and 5 are the hardest because 5 limits your ammo. I don't know if you ever played.
That's
5,
true. I did play 5. I never finished it though.
Yes, 5 is like didn't feel like it was designed for a legendary playthrough, especially if you were playing by yourself. If you're in co-op, I played 5 with 2 of my roommates back in 2017. We did it in legendary. We beat it. Took a while because there's some stupid enemies in 5 that you have to hit them in the back, the wardens. So
I think I remember those very vaguely though, because my brain has shut that off.
Well, 5 story was bad, so don't know, no shocker there. But the gameplay was fun.
Enough of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What one last little thing with Halo is you have not lived until you played XCOM 2 modded with Halo characters.
Ooh, that sounds beautiful.
It is so fun to have all of the cool armor sets and like voice lines for everybody. It's clean. But anyway, Alejandro, we have other things to talk about today.
Absolutely, because we're not in what we've been playing. That will be later.
We're not.
But we got a bevy of news. And I tell you, I'm so thankful we're now doing a recap on Mondays of the previous week's news, because now we don't feel the pressure that we're launching and then something immediately gets us basically irrelevant if we're trying to stay relevant. It would have worked on Friday, but your schedule doesn't work on Friday. So it's the next best thing. So Paul, press X.
For some news.
All right, here comes the news. So, Paul, remember that one time there was a leak about a studio acquisition? Then we were like, is it actually happening? Was it a goof? You were saying that it was a goof. I was like, it's too elaborate of an image to just have been a goof. They have that thing ready.
I was like, I wanted to have the benefit of the doubt of like, what if somebody just decided to make this up? But honestly, I don't even remember what I was saying back then.
Yes.
So
it finally happened. It finally happened after an accidental leak by PlayStation's Japan Twitter back in July. Sony has officially acquired Texas developer Bluepoint Games, the studio that has become well renowned for both their remaster and remake work, as seen recently with their brilliant Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls remakes from 2018 and 2020. And some really good remaster work back in the PS3 era with the God of War Collection, Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, and a bunch of others. So here's the rub, though. The news comes with the announcement that their next game will be an original title, dashing any hopes that they may be working on something so desired like a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake next. What do you think of this, Paul?
Well, it's very delayed kind of an answer. I think
3 months almost.
But we had kind of discussed at the time, I think they wanted those developers to get their time in the limelight, talk about that, so it's not a whole bunch of things all at once. But Sony's been picking up a lot of things under the radar against a lot of what we've been thinking. I don't know how much of that we talked about on the podcast.
Yeah, so just as a recap of what they have been doing this year, the first thing they did was announce a partnership with Discord. After Discord basically said to Microsoft, go away, because they wanted to be acquired because Microsoft wanted to acquire Discord, but apparently because they acquired Skype, they would have gotten into monopoly territory. So that didn't happen. But then they got a minority stake on Discord. So Discord is going to become a native part of PlayStation sometime in 2022, which will be awesome because with all the crossplay games, you need a better chat system than what we have currently. Then
it's terrible.
Yeah, then they acquired Housemarque, the developer of Returnal. That was the first acquisition that they revealed. That was when the goof happened, because all the PlayStation accounts, with the exception of Japan Twitter, had welcome Housemarque, and then Japan had also welcome Bluepoint. So that's where all this thing was like, oh, the cat's out of the bag. That's what's next. The next day, we heard about Nixxes, the guys that made the PC ports of many Square Enix games like Marvel's Avengers, Tomb Raider, and a bunch of that. That was acquired by Sony. Then I think it was a few weeks ago, they acquired this random studio called Firesprite, which it's a studio based in Liverpool, England. And that one was interesting because it had talent from Sony Liverpool that they closed down back in 2012 after the release of the Wipeout 2042 game on Vita. So a lot of that talent remained together and they stayed with Firesprite. And then they're a big team. They're like 250 people. And they kind of have like 3 games in development. And then they acquired that. It was basically reacquiring the studio that they closed down with most of the same people. And now we got Bluepoint. So they got been doing some moves, despite a lot of people saying that they've been doing nothing this year because their eternal silence made it feel that way.
They, to quote the Gamer Dictionary, they have a dummy thick level of talent.
Yes.
And there's not too much more to say about that one. It's just, I'm excited for all the stuff that they're going to make, especially Bluepoint specifically, since that's what this piece of news is about. They have shown that they can be trusted with some really big stuff. Of the idea, I can't remember who said it, but with specifically in regards to Demon Souls, saying that they modernized gameplay elements but kept the heart and passion of what initially made it so great.
Same with Shadow of the Colossus has the exact same thing.
Shadow of the Colossus, same thing. So I'm just excited to see whatever else they do, especially considering they're now being trusted with their own original title. And hey, I'm going to be fine with
that. Was interesting because they've only done one original title in their entire history. It was a PSN game that came out in 2006 that wasn't that well received, but their accolades came from doing good work with someone else's work, basically being a cover band. Someone made a joke at the Iron Lords podcast that they're the ones that do the they're basically the cover studio. But that's a very almost disrespectful way of saying that. That's disrespecting the really great work they've done. They set the bar high for remakes that
they have.
Only Resident Evil 2 has been able to reach, in my opinion, as someone that put a remake with definite care in modern ways. So a new game by them will be interesting. But speaking of Metal Gear, website Video Games Chronicle, which right away I've noticed that Video Games Chronicle has become a very reputable site. I'm really glad that a lot of the things that they broke and have actually come to pass. Remember Mario 3D All-Stars? They were the first ones to break it.
That was them. Okay.
Yeah, that was them. So Video Games Chronicle reports that sources tell them Konami is ready to come back to premium game development, where they will bring back series like Castlevania, Metal Gear Solid, and Silent Hill in some shape or another. For Castlevania, it will be a reimagining title worked by both Konami's internal team and some outsourced studio, which will be the first console Castlevania game since Lords of Shadow 1 and Lords of Shadow 2, the duology from 2010 and 2014. Did you ever play those?
I did. Well, I only played the first one, but don't forget there was a last DS or 3DS game.
Mirrors of Fate. Yeah, Mirrors of Fate.
Yeah, that's the one.
But that's DS. That was, it eventually got ported to consoles, but the last mainline like console-made games were those two. True. And the second one wasn't very good. So for Metal Gear Solid, the company's planning both remasters of the already released games, which would finally make the series available to modern consoles, since the entire series via the HD collections has remained stranded on PS3, with only select titles available via Xbox backwards compatibility. And they're also entrusted in Chinese studio Virtuos, who has done support work studio for many different things, and they also did the Batman Return to Arkham collection. And they're going to be working on a remake of the fan favorite Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. As for Silent Hill, tinfoil hat on. BGC reiterates their earlier report from earlier this year that Silent Hill has been given to a couple studios to work on individual games, both Western and Japanese studios. Remember Bloomberg team, the guy that made the Medium, signed like a MOU with them earlier. So we assumed they were going to be working on them. So you can connect the dots there. And they also reiterated that the Japanese studio in particular is a well-renowned studio, though VGC specifically didn't say who it was. However, reputable website Gamatsu, who has sources that are very entrenched in Japan, corroborated most of VGC's reporting, with them adding that their sources tell them the prominent Japanese developer working on Silent Hill is actually Kojima Productions. Show your shirt. And that Sony Interactive Entertainment is the one actually footing the bill for the development. This is especially notable considering all the shenanigans surrounding the saga of Abandon earlier this year. BGC mentioned that most of these plans were supposed to be announced this year at E3 by Konami, but the company very publicly was the first one to bow out of E3. So expect at least some sort of announcement in 2022. This is a big one, Paul. What are your thoughts?
I am like, I haven't even fully processed the information and that gets left in all of this. There's so much that could be unpacked. It's like you get opened up into this warehouse with a bunch of locked doors and you're like, this is cool, but what is behind all of this extra stuff? Because there's so many little details in here that get me interested. One is like the source for Video Games Chronicle that has been able to do this. Second, this would mean that Kojima is starting to work, even if indirectly, with Konami again, because the problem with this is that I'm not as big of a Silent Hill fan, but for Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid, I'm huge fans of, and Konami owns the rights to those, and they have not been wanting to play ball with anybody else. And that's one of the reasons why all their stuff has gone into like pachinko machines and not actual games.
By the way, speaking of the pachinko machines, do you ever see the one they did for Metal Gear Solid 3 with a remake of the final cutscene in the Fox engine?
I watched all of those cutscenes on YouTube. It looks so good.
What an insult that it was stuck there. But continue.
Yeah. So just like you said, it really wasn't in their interest to do something like that. But then they realized that after the more or less failures of Lords of Shadow 2, Metal Gear Survive's attempted revival of the series, horrible process, and they also made Contra. Was the
RoCorp, I think, is
which apparently did terribly.
Yeah, horrible game also.
And then eFootball, which
but by the way, have you seen pictures of that? Oh my god, those pictures are horrifying. What's happening with eFootball?
Sitting at like a 9%. On how good it is.
Yeah, on Steam charts. Is it the lowest
like
reviewed game?
15,000 reviews or something like that. So anyway, their initial internal team has not been known for doing good work, which makes me a little nervous about the Castlevania revival that they're talking about. I'm hoping that they've learned their lesson from this and they really want to go back to, if not their roots with a 2D Castlevania, just to get their foot in the door with everyone. Because if I were them, that's what I would do. I would do something, maybe not huge blockbuster, just something good that people will trust, and then spend their money on something next. So don't go full blown yet. Put the passion in. Yeah. Put the desire. Get the help.
Yeah, I feel what's interesting here is kind of like the approaches. Like the Castlevania thing, yeah, it worries me because Lords of Shadow 2 was not a good game at all. The first one was.
Yeah.
Because it's a mix of internal developers and external developers because they're having outside help. That helps ameliorate it a little bit.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. So, but again,
if the core team is still in charge, then I'm not sure how involved this outside source is going to be.
Yeah, especially because their main like core development team hasn't delivered a good game since Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Like that was the last time they had an acclaimed thing, and it's been what, 6 years? Because Metal Gear Survive happened 3 years after that and was horrendous. Obviously, Contra RoCorp also. With the Metal Gear Solid thing, the thing that excites me is just the idea of the remasters of the already released games, because those games are good. I replayed all of Metal Gear this year on PS3. I wish I could do it on normal console, but just being able to like, what makes me interesting is like, how are you going to do the first Metal Gear? Because that's one of the more highly beloved entries because of its purity and how well it holds up. But just
you have to do one of two things. It's either you give it the Twin Snakes treatment,
and that one's tricky because Twin Snakes broke a lot of that game and made it.
And some people consider that better too.
Which they're crazy. If they only consider it better because it looks like Metal Gear Solid 2 and has the first-person camera, I get it. But the essence of that game is lost because first person breaks that game. Like it breaks all the combat with Revolver Ocelot and the cutscenes that they added. They basically made Solid Snake Neo from Matrix. He does all these backflips and he stands on the on
Really?
like missiles. You should watch the cutscenes. It's insane
Oh
that
Lord.
they the soundtrack has changed. Some of the voice acting has changed. Like there's like I mentioned you, the soundtrack, the best is yet to come from Metal Gear Solid 1, like hits you in the
Yeah.
soul. Like there's just something about those like almost Gregorian chants, but not really, like the Japanese chants that you really holds up as a very emotional thing that they missed in Twin Snakes. So, but if they end up releasing Twin Snakes, it's like I'll take it because it's like it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I just wish the original Metal Gear was there, but like 2 and 3, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 are like you can play those on Xbox One. By the way, if you're listening to this, I think if you listen to it, you can still get those games for $5, both of them on Xbox Live Arcade. I told you yesterday if you wanted to
Yeah.
acquire
Which
them.
I realize I still have 2, 3, and
Peace Walker.
Peace Walker
Do you have the disc?
on disc, I
Oh,
think.
and on 360.
I think I still have it, yeah.
Okay,
So
then
I
you're
would,
good. Then you're good. So,
yeah,
but
if
if
I
you,
feel the desire, I'll pop that in.
yes, those games hold up really well. But if you're a PlayStation gamer, like modern PlayStation gamer, only Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes and 5 are available to you, and
Right.
2, 3, and Peace Walker are on PlayStation Now, which I wouldn't recommend you play those games with lag, because even Metal Gear Solid 4 is stranded on PS3 natively. There's been no native way to play that game other than emulators.
Right.
And the PS3 emulator is so hard to make work if you don't have the beefiest of PCs. I've been looking at betas and be like, how's the emulator working? Because I would love to see that game like emulated at a higher frame rate and all that, because it's like it can be kind of rough technically nowadays, but it's also really, really good game. So having all of them as is, just remastered would be enough. Because then I wouldn't mind if the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 sucks, because they're being entrusted to not a remake port, they're giving it to a remaster studio to do a remake of this game.
Right.
And only way I would
What
accept it is if they use the Fox engine. So it was like Metal Gear Solid 3 with Metal Gear 5 gameplay. That would be
Right.
great. I doubt they're going
That'd
to
be
do that.
fantastic. What like I was saying, like the one option was Twin Snakes. The second option would be to like remake it from the ground up. And a good example, rather than saying Twin Snakes, you could say Resident Evil 1 remake.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's everything exactly the same except quality of life and fully different textures, but like same style of gameplay.
Same
I
voice
think a lot of the
acting.
purists would really like that. Well, the only other thing is, did they change the voice acting in the Resident Evil remake?
I think they did a little bit because the Jill
think they
sandwich, the
also
Jill
did.
sandwich meme
Yeah.
from PS1 wasn't in the GameCube remake, and the one that you can play on PlayStation and Xbox right now.
Okay.
So
So yeah, then what I would think is if you could somehow make it so that all of the voice acting is the same, because that dialogue, David Hayter's voice is like perfectly iconic, and it would be a lot easier than having to like recast an entirely different group that you know is just going to get torn to shreds by the media anyway.
especially after the poor job they did
And
with
that would
like
be the best option for like a pure remake remaster version.
yeah, and you don't
Oh, I think
want
I lost you again. Oh no.
dang it.
Oh wait.
No, there it is.
I got you back. Okay.
Yes, and
Whew.
there's internet.
Did I
There's
cut out at some point?
just a little bit, but I think there's like unstable internet. Of course, today has to be a day of
Of
technical
course.
issues.
So yeah, needless.
Go for it.
And I froze again. Oh wait, no, I'm
Yeah,
here.
there we go.
Okay. Yes. So first option is to do the Resident Evil 1 option. Second is to remake it from the ground up, make it fully modern, which I would love, but that's also a huge undertaking. Like I said at the start of this, if I was Konami, I would do something simpler that I know people are going to like, get the trust up. And I know this is technically a different situation because it's a different studio, really. But I mean, I'm just glad that Konami's willing to play ball with other developers now.
It's the best thing they can do now because their current developers just suck.
Yeah.
And
if I was Kojima, I would probably be okay somewhat with just remaking previous things from Metal Gear Solid. That wouldn't require my presence and leave him to do something he's more passionate about. which clearly he is liking Silent Hill lately.
Yeah, well, that's a project that got taken away from him.
Yeah. So if I were him, I would jump at that Silent Hill opportunity, even though personally I would absolutely go back to Metal Gear Solid. But
yes. By the way,
I give him the credit.
Silent Hill 2 and 3 are $7 on Xbox if you ever want to give it a shot, like as they were with the HD collection.
Am not a fan of Silent Hill at all. I am a big scaredy boy. I don't like the spooks. I don't like the idea of them as much, and I have no nostalgia for it. So I'll probably leave those.
I'm just waiting for that RE8 Village discount this month. At any point, we're in October now.
I would love that because I feel like I might be able to deal with the more action-oriented idea of RE8, because 7 was like right on the borderline of all right, I'm good, but also I'm gonna spook.
Yeah, you're gonna get your spooks. Hopefully, we're not getting spooked with the internet keep falling down for us right now.
Seriously.
So, as for Silent Hill, what has been the thing that has driven me crazy this year, Paul? The thing that like went me to desire someone get their balls cut out and be hanged.
I believe it was something along the lines of abandoned.
So, hearing this Gamatsu thing makes this whole abandoned shenanigans, which is what everyone wanted that thing to be like this facade that would eventually be revealed as an actual Kojima production of a new Silent Hill under Sony's blessing, especially considering the special treatment Sony gave them to do this stupid app that hasn't been updated since that one time. You know what this reminds me of?
What?
You haven't seen Shang-Chi yet, right?
I haven't actually.
Okay.
I think on October 6th, it's supposed to get on Disney Plus.
November 12th.
November. Oh, shoot. Okay, it was Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow was October 6th.
If I can get away with it, I want to see that in theaters then.
Yes. So remember in Iron Man 3, the whole Mandarin thing with being revealed at Trevor Slattery and all of that?
I am the Mandarin.
Yeah, so the Ben Kingsley basically being like a facade of the real thing. And that's referencing Shang-Chi. The measure is like, yeah, we were the real thing. And there was this dude trying to do their own thing, like pretending to be what it's not. This is what Abandoned is now reminding me of if it ends up not being this thing.
Oh my gosh.
Just think about that. It's like Sony Kojima working this thing, and then they see this idiot trying to do all the stuff to the side, but they didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to reveal that they were working on it, but they're letting this thing faceplant because it's the only thing that would explain, unless it was actually all part of the ruse and they tried to do the Phantom Pain thing and did it horribly. This is like the only way to explain because it's hilarious. Now we're basically getting a Gamatsu confirmation that the thing everyone has been wanting all year, it's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
not in the way that
that everyone has been like obsessing over for Jesus Christ. Like, was it like, when was it? June? In June was when I sent you the big Reddit.
Yeah, I think it was June. And then you were like, you need to take this rabbit hole because I did. And I was like, no, thank you. I will stay out of it. Thank you very much. Very glad I did, especially on this back end of it. But then if it ever does become like an internet historian video, I'm going to look back on it and be like, yes, I remember this time. This was amazing.
Yeah, how a bunch of scammers basically took the thunder of a real thing to the side, or how did Sony basically allow them to do that? Because that's the thing. Like,
that's the last thing that I really want an answer to is how Sony. It's either it was supposed to be part of a reveal that went terribly and then Sony cut ties with it before it could look poorly, or this whole scam line is actually true and Sony somehow got scammed by this group, which both options are very interesting. I just really want to hear a confirmation one way or the other.
It like, no matter what, that's like the most fascinating story of the year because of how weird it is and how like it made me grow white hair over it. So number 3, Paul, no more talking about Silent before I go back into
let's get out of
red
here.
String.
Take your tinfoil hat off.
Yes. Insomniac SpiderMan 2 announced not too long ago with a 2023 release window. has had a few more details come out. Like, we didn't talk about this in the show when it first came out, that actor Tony Todd, who plays Candyman, and for me personally, he plays the villain Zoom on the Flash. He does a
Oh,
very
yeah.
he does a very, very creepy voice. He is gonna be the voice of Venom. But also the biggest, most recent thing was that Marvel Game Studio head Bill Roseman. He said that the game's story is gonna be their version of Empire Strikes Back. So basically a tale that's gonna be darker than what came before.
Yeah.
This is interesting though, because I don't know about you. I don't know how far you are into replaying Spider-Man Remastered or how much you remember about that first game. That game got dark also.
I remember a good amount of it actually because I've played it a surprising amount of times actually, even before now. It's like 4 times I think I've played through that game.
Yeah. And I mean, the scene that always sticks out to me is like the Halloween party when you find Martin Lee and he possesses like the doctor that has him like shoot himself. It's like that's like it's super messed up. Like it's super messed up.
The game is like overall this like really nice, sweet love letter to Spider-Man, and then some of the storyline missions just take this hard left turn on, hey, we're going to have somebody possess himself and then commit suicide right in front of your face. We're going to have
9/11 basically at the
a terrorist bombing.
Yeah, it's like
we're going to have a pandemic with several people, very prominent characters dying.
A friend played through Spider-Man back in quarantine when he had just gotten he had just bought a PS4 and playing through all the games, and he was texting me about it. He was like, of course there's a pandemic in this game. I was like, you're right.
Yep.
You're absolutely right, there is. And yeah, it's like, and even the ending, the implication of that ending was like
immensely bittersweet.
Yeah, it's very bittersweet. So it's like Spider-Man's put through the ringer. But here's the thing, like, yes, Spider-Man is a very cheery character and all that, but he has some stories that, especially in the comics, that are hella dark. Like Kraven's Last Hunt, like when he basically gets killed and buried. Like Sins Past, a story that recently got retconned when it was revealed that Green Goblin basically had babies with Gwen Stacy or something like that. Yeah. Like, or the more, or this what if story that Spider-Man killed Mary Jane because of his
radioactive sperm.
Like, one more day, enough said. Like, yeah, like there's been some dark Spider-Man stuff. So,
and just weird, dark, strange things. People seem to misunderstanding the idea of Peter Parker is that he's supposed to always be poor and miserable. I disagree with that statement. However, that doesn't seem to be the consensus.
Yeah.
I feel like he needs to be strength under difficult things happening to him. But I think that's why this game resonates so well.
And Spider-Man is like, this game succeeds for showing everything, every side.
Right.
His successes, his failures, him getting evicted.
Right. But then it's also always underlined by the hopefulness of it. He like he gets MJ back. He meets Miles and becomes a mentor to him. He grows and gains a lot of strength with his suit and abilities and understanding of himself. And he wipes out a lot of villains along the way, but then he also loses a lot in the process. So it's always a give and take. And I think a lot of the comic book writers just want it to be misery porn featuring Peter Parker. So that's one reason why I think this game succeeds a lot. The fact that they are saying it's going to be darker, I'm not really worried it's going to go into that territory as much. I think it will be just what we've seen on a bigger, larger scale or more intense scale. Like, of course, all of Manhattan got swept up into that pandemic thing, but there can be other things that can be shown.
Yeah. And Miles Morales, they're out of it, also, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not that much longer later. So you see already the city has recovered. And even Miles Morales had like a tinge of darkness, but also hopefulness. So I would hope that they have that balance right, that they don't get too away. Because it also, like, it's funny that I mentioned the Flash season 2 here. Like, the Flash TV show, that first season was like a perfect blend of light-hearted superhero thought, but dark character drama that makes that one of like the best superhero TV seasons ever. And then the second season got a little too dark. Like, it had a balance, but then it just becomes morose, and it just becomes like it feels like the hopefulness doesn't shine as much over like the seriousness. And it's so
Yeah.
funny because a lot of that seriousness is under the villain that's voiced by Tony Todd, because it's like a serial murderer. Like literally, he like I'm gonna send you this video of him speed breaking the necks of like 10 police officers just like that.
Jeez.
It's like it's messed up. So yeah, it's like I hope that Insomniac knows that what they got with the 2018 game was really good. Like it was so he just nailed it.
Mhm.
That they don't feel that balance of we have to make it darker, because everyone uses the Empire Strikes Back thing, and obviously that's a darker movie than New Hope,
Right.
but it ends on a hopeful note, on an optimistic
Does.
note, knowing that they were put through the ringer, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. I hope
Right.
that's the lesson.
I'm hoping as well. And I just lost your video, but are you still there?
Yeah, my
Okay.
camera just
Well, that's fine. Let's see. I think we've kind of finished what we were talking about that.
there we go.
In the end,
Mhm.
I agree. Empire Strikes Back, I think a lot of people use that as a trigger phrase
Mhm.
and then say that means, oh, it's really grimdark. But
Mhm.
Empire Strikes Back was like, it had some difficult things, but there was also a lot of hope at the end of it. So in the end, I hope it goes along that side of it and it's a true Empire Strikes Back situation and not just, hey, we're going to make everyone miserable.
Absolutely. Okay, let's
And we're
see.
back.
Yes, come on, HD, and there you go. Last, please, please, last. What's I don't know what's happened. We're cursed today.
We are.
Yeah, but yeah, they kind of like, yeah, I agree. It's like hopefully don't take the wrong lessons of Empire, or everyone that decided that a sequel has to be darker just for the sake of darkness. Number 4, speaking of dark things, is a Twisted
Yes.
Metal revival coming soon. According to, once again, Video Games Chronicle, it seems like a revival of that classic PlayStation series is actually happening. The series last seen on PlayStation 3 in 2012. This news, Twisted Metal is supposed to be worked on by developer Lucid. If you know who they are, they're the ones that made the PS5 launch window title Destruction All Stars, which was, for all intents and purposes, a Twisted Metal game on anything but name. That's what's so funny. I saw that, I was like, you have Twisted Metal. Why are you not doing Twisted Metal for launch? But it seems that was the test. That was kind of like the test run. The game is allegedly aiming for a release around 2023, and it will likely be timed with the announced TV show that Sony's doing, starring Anthony Mackie. Real
See, that
quick,
last sentence made me do the
Tom. All right,
the, the blinking
the
meme
blank meme.
where he kind of like, wait a minute, there's a TV show, two, it's gonna star Anthony Mackie. I just did not expect any of that. I have some thoughts on this one, but brief
Yeah, go for it.
ones.
Mhm.
I did not like Destruction All Stars at
Me
all.
neither.
I tried it. I genuinely really wanted to like it.
It has a good core,
Um,
but everything around it sucked.
Everything about the driving absolutely sucks. I think the idea is there. The characters even were decent. The car designs were decent. The idea, the abilities were decent, but playing those cars, it felt like I was driving a brick. When you're turning, like there's like this weird on rails idea once you're going a certain speed and you can't really kind of turn long enough. If you try to hit the emergency brake to spin, you kind of like stop but turn your car like practically 90 degrees. It felt clunky. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel satisfying to really hit another car besides the haptic feedback kind of helping
Mhm.
you out. So I'm kind of glad that they didn't try to do the Twisted Metal straight off the bat, just like we talked about with Konami.
Mhm.
Make something solid and then jump into your big eye piece. Because if they had done this as Twisted Metal,
That would
I
have sunk
fear
it
that
immediately.
it would have sunk the entire series. But if they done this, it was like okay, but not really the best. If they can learn from that and now do a Twisted Metal game, I think it's going to soar.
They have the core now. Now they can
Yeah,
just flip the assets and just build on what worked. Because I
right.
sort of disagree a little bit with Destruction Walter. I felt it didn't feel too bad for the kind of game it is, because I used to play Twisted Metal back in PS1 and Destruction Derby back in N64. They have to give the cars don't need to feel super tight. They have to feel like weighty so that everything can punch. So I think they nailed that. Unless you're looking for something more arcadey, then I can see why you didn't feel it felt right.
I
But
guess I had just played like Wreckfest or something else that
yeah, that's way
feel
more arcadey.
right, but it's like it felt good driving the cars, and that's something that I can't quite quantify as best as some other things. But in the end, for some people, it was more their speed.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping that it does well.
Yeah, it's at least they say there's going to be a free to play game. I didn't put it here, but that's what the aim is
Oh,
for. So that's going to work for it.
okay.
Number 5, Paul. Before the internet, we're Crash Bandicoot first pursuing the ball, running from the boulder. The boulder.
We've got a
internet
gun to the back of our heads
disconnection.
called disconnecting internet.
Yes. Number 5, according to Bloomberg, Nintendo supposedly gave dev kits to developers to work on 4K enabled games for the Nintendo Switch, which, if you remember, was what the rumors of the alleged new Nintendo Switch was supposed to be capable of doing, according to them. If you remember that reporting back in May. Although Bloomberg has doubled down on the reports, with them adding they've heard of 11 developers who have said dev kits, Nintendo directly refuted Bloomberg's report, reiterating they don't have plans for an upgraded model of the Switch beyond the new Nintendo Switch that's launching this Friday. And Zynga, one of the developers they reported on, denied having any access to said dev kits. Zynga's working on a Star Wars game that they announced in the Nintendo Direct of February. By the way, I smell BS somewhere here.
Yeah,
I don't know from where,
definitely...
but it's definitely coming from the big end. I would say I don't trust corporations,
especially a company as big as Zynga saying, "Oh yeah, no, we agree with Nintendo. Like, there's nothing going on here."
Yes.
That's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately means it is absolutely real that Nintendo brought out the OLED just to get people to spend more money before they brought out an actual powerful model. Because if everything is lining up the way we're thinking it is, that's really scummy on Nintendo's part to say, hey, we're going to fix the display and nothing else, pay us more money, and then like maybe a year later say, oh, by the way, that thing that was a rumor, that was totally true, pay us more money.
And that's the thing that doesn't escape me, because Bloomberg is not just a no one. It's a reputable source that has gotten so many things right. So I keep reiterating that I feel that this was supposed to be a power upgrade, but they saw the silicon chip shortage. Look at how hard it's been trying to get a PS5 and Xbox Series X, because they use that in many other industries. So they probably saw that as like, we want to make money. We're not going to like shorten ourselves out when we're competing with the Ps that are being used by the other two that are struggling to satisfy demand, especially when the Switch is still so freaking successful.
Right.
And by the way, this model comes out this Friday, FYI. So with Metroid. And it honestly feels like they had everything. They saw that they're like, F it. We're going to have the same thing. It's just going to be a better display for those that want it. We're going to sell it regardless. So, but you're just not going to say it, because I don't know if you remember the Mario and Rabbids game that was revealed this year, like the sequel. That game looked way too good for it to be running on what's supposed to be the current Switch. And many people noted that. It's like, this is way too clean. The gameplay seems way cleaner than what the like previous one was.
Higher resolution.
Yeah, like higher resolution and all that. So,
okay.
I'll leave it. I'll just leave
That's
it at
interesting.
That.
Yeah, let's leave that at that.
Yeah, number 6. Back in May, we learned that God of War Ragnarok, the sequel to PS4's most highly acclaimed exclusive, was being delayed out of its proposed /vague 2021 release window. However, last week we learned what could have been one of the main reasons for said delay. In a tweet thread he posted following the announcement that God of War 2018 was named the best game of all time by fan voting at the IGN Best of All Time bracket thing, actor Christopher Judge revealed that he had to go into surgery because he couldn't walk and needed to get both his hips replaced, amongst other things. And he expressed gratefulness to Sony Santa Monica for accommodating to his health issues. Whether he's fully healed now or not, we wish him a full recovery while we wait the full release of the final chapter in the North Saga. He went like, I show you those tweets. He literally posted after IGN announced the winner. He was between that and GTA 5. By the way, I'm so glad it won over GTA 5. I couldn't believe GTA 5 made it that far into the bracket. But a lot of those brackets were messed up. I'll just say that.
I'll agree to that. Because if you put up one thing next to another, you might choose one of those options, but then later on it's like, oh well, I definitely thought it was way better than all these other things that made it farther along in the bracket. So that's one reason I don't really like the idea of brackets for those things.
Especially they accommodate recency bias in a way.
Oh
more
yeah,
than
absolutely.
like Apex
Because
Legends versus Super Metroid. Of course, if you put a fan bracket, people are gonna
yeah,
vote for Apex Legends. There's no way to play Super Metroid unless
because
you have Switch Online.
nobody from like a certain generation on is going to even vote on this, much less actually see it. Because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see it until it was on the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, I
and I don't
followed
even.
it. I was salty when Last of Us
Wow.
annihilated Metal Gear Solid 3, 72 to 28.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I wanted to tear my hair out because I was like, how? But of course, it's more modern.
In any case, with this, notwithstanding terrible judgment on the gaming environment, this is one of those few stories that are like super wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that one, he immediately like came out and said he's the sole reason why it got delayed
Mm-hmm.
was like huge. You don't usually do that unless you really are prepared for hate mail, I
Backlash
guess.
or
Yeah,
and yeah.
backlash. Suck it up, get used to it, whatever it is. But the fact that he once said that, two, that like it was overwhelming support towards this guy and his physical health was like really happy to me because when you sent me that initially, I went, "Oh no, this man is about to be like destroyed in
Mm-hmm.
front of my face." And then it was like comment after comment saying like, "We love your performance. You're a great actor. Feel better.
Corey
Do what you need
Balrog,
to
the
do."
director, he
Yeah,
also showed his love there. So because he literally said, "This isn't PR approved. I'm just saying, I'm just shooting my shot. This is what happened," and they
right,
didn't come in and be like, "Cut that. No, don't say that." No,
right.
they were like, and throwing support. And I'll say this, maybe, yeah, it's fully true that that was the entire reason it was delayed. I mean, I also include that we're in a COVID environment, so that
Yeah.
also
I
had
think there's
an
more
effect.
to it,
Yes.
but the fact that he like said it was entirely him to try to take all of the blame
Mhm.
was like really big of him, I think.
And
Um,
more than anything, like a big, huge, more PR boost for Sony Santa Monica as
yeah.
like one of the more wholesome Sony studios. Like, what do we hear from Naughty Dog? Oh, they're crunching like crazy. Like, remember
Oh
all
gosh,
the
yeah.
bad stories we got out of
Mhm.
Naughty Dog right before Last of Us 2 came out?
The terrible stuff they had to go through.
Yeah, so it's like they're not gonna say no to good press. I'll say this, but it's still very wholesome and makes it more interesting. And I don't know if you saw this tiny controversy that they're reusing the same Kratos jumping into boat
Yeah,
animation and all that.
which that's ridiculous,
Yes,
guys. Come
everyone's
on.
like everyone reuses like watch freaking Call. I've been replaying a bunch of Call of Duty. I'll say that more when we go into our what we've been playing when we record that. It's like they reuse so many animations in that game. It's like you can't in good faith make that argument like at all, especially if something works. But then at the same time, like, yeah, a bunch of like animations like that, they mocap those. So it would make
Right.
sense that they wouldn't mocap and not a different boat
And
animation. Who cares? It's
even
just
if they did, it would be almost identical if they went through the entire process of re-recording a shoot of them jumping into the boat. Would it not be exactly the same?
yeah.
So like it wouldn't even make sense for them to use the resources. You'd be better off making the game better in another area
Mm-hmm.
than wasting the time and money to do something like that. So
Exactly. It was just a fanboy bait, basically,
yeah,
being like, oh, he's using all of this. It's like
I'm kind of
how
glad
much
that everyone clowned on that person
absolutely,
immediately.
oh, absolutely. But yeah, I'm wishing for full recovery for him. It also makes sense that especially knowing Marvel, how Marvel's Avengers has worked, especially with how they've been expanding and working from home and all that. He was the voice of T'Challa in the War for Wakanda expansion. So, but they would
Christopher
need,
Judge was?
yeah,
Oh
he
shoot, that's
he
awesome.
do he did a great Black Panther.
I would
Like,
think so. He has
yes,
the range for that immensely.
which by the way, Marvel's Avengers available on Game Pass now if you're an Xbox, if you want to experience the good parts of that game. Um, so yeah, he wouldn't have done the need to do mocap for that if he was still recovering, especially with working from home and all the shenanigans. But who knows? Maybe by the time he went to record for Wakanda, he was already recovered. Who knows? Number 7, Paul, final story. Follow up to one of our news items from a few months ago. The reported remasters of the PS2 era Grand Theft Auto games received their H rating in South Korea. Why is this important, you ask? When a game gets rated by any country, that basically confirms a product's existence. Before this was all reports that it was happening. It being rated, it means it's real. Like how we learned of the existence of Ghost of Tsushima director's cut earlier this year. It was rated by the ESRB. 2 days later, we saw confirmation of that game. So The interesting nugget here is that the rating also included information about a 2022 release date, which is different from the report that some versions would be released in 2021, with others to follow in 2022. So now we're getting, at least whenever it comes out, we're finally going to have an experience to, well, we're going to have the chance to re-experience Rockstar's early work now with modern stuff, whether it's either this year or in 2022. Also ironic, it's like, this also kind of makes sense because GTA 5 was delayed out of this year, remember? It was supposed to come out in November. All of this was going to come out kind of close together and it got punted. More delays.
I wasn't expecting this to come out this year at all.
Yeah.
So this doesn't surprise me in the slightest. The fact that it even exists is nice to hear that it's confirmed, because you don't do an age rating unless you're absolutely sure it's actually happening.
Exactly.
It is a little bit of a shame that we've reached to the point of understanding this industry well enough that when certain things like this happen, we know about it well before reveals, which makes it so much more powerful whenever we actually get surprised by something. So that's nice, where it's like, whoa, where did this come from? This is all over the place, versus kind of knowing everything before it happens.
And a recent example, Taiwan rated the Castlevania Advance Collection a week before its release.
Did we talk about that though? Because I don't know if I heard about it.
It happened in between. It happened in between.
Huh. Well, yeah. I'm glad I was surprised about that, because I got to react to that genuinely on our video, which you can check out.
Yes, you can definitely check out
our reaction. See my reaction to it, especially finding out when what did they say? It was like later today or something. And it was there. I was like, "Where's my Switch?"
Yeah, but it was like on PlayStation also and on Xbox.
Yeah, as soon as I found that out, I actually just bought that. But that's our next video coming out on Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh yes. And with that, we fulfill the big news for the last week. Very meaty stuff. Like in the recap, I mentioned last week that I wanted to follow up with some of the things that are coming out, notable things coming out this week. This week, tomorrow, Paul, from when we record this, Alan Wake Remastered is coming.
Yeah.
Also this week, Far Cry 6 is upon us.
Forgot about that.
Yes, and Metroid Dread.
Yes,
with the Nintendo. 8th. Yeah, with the Nintendo, the new Nintendo Switch. Are you gonna play any of those three?
I will. Not.
Yeah, I might get Alan Wake because it's $30, so it's cheaper. So
I wasn't huge on Alan Wake, and I know it's like really big.
I never fully played it.
I know.
I need to play that. So
I kind of want to, but I have so many other things that I want to play more than that I might let it go. As far as Far Cry 6, just like you said, I'll probably wait till the Christmas sale, Black Friday, whatever that's going to be. And then I'm going to wait on Metroid Dread, possibly also till Christmas.
Remember, Nintendo games never go on sale, especially the ones that come out this year. So
I might be able to get that one for free for like a Christmas gift. So I might wait on that one, because that's the least likely to go on sale, leaving all the ones that are more likely on sale to be ones that I'll buy myself.
Makes sense.
So that's what I'm going for.
Metroid Dread is wait for the reviews just to see if it's going to be an insta buy, or I'll wait also for November, December when there's nothing else that
it looks solid though. If I didn't have to worry about the amount of time I already spend playing video games, I'd probably get it as soon as I could.
Oh, absolutely. And then Far Cry 6 is like, apparently there's going to be a review embargo that's going to lift on Wednesday. So I want to hear what their impressions are. Is it just more Far Cry? Based on the previews, they had said it's more Far Cry. And I'm like, that sounds great at a sale for me. So
I watched one person play like it was weird because like you could play certain parts of it, and some people got sponsored by Ubisoft to like play Far Cry 6 and make a video about it. And what they were saying was actually pretty good. I watched one guy, his name's Afro Senju XL. He's a very eccentric, hilariously hype black man that loves to get excited about
Oh man,
games.
it sounds like hip hop gamer because
Yeah,
he's also like that.
basically. He's a little bigger and he wears these big glasses, but he played Far Cry 6 for like the first 15 or 20 hours or something. Not 15, 20
No, it
minutes
was
of it.
like, yeah,
Sorry.
15-20 minutes. Yeah.
Like the opening mission was embargoed, but he could play the open world, they said.
Mhm.
So he played some of that and he was really loving what you could do with it and like
Yeah.
the abilities you had.
I watched the skill up preview. He did, and he played like, I think they allowed him to play 3 hours. He said it's more Far Cry. He said, and he loves Far Cry. So
Okay.
if you love Far Cry and you want more Far Cry, apparently the previous days is more Far Cry. Let's see if it's even more. I haven't played one since 2018. I that's the last one I beat, Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
I bought
I
New
didn't
Dawn.
do New Dawn at all.
I bought New Dawn, played it for 5 minutes. I was like, I'll wait for it when I'm in the mood for this. So I still haven't played New Dawn. And
Yeah.
apparently they're including the New Dawn thing of health with enemies. So yay.
I feel like that's got to be something you could turn off though, because a
I
lot
hope.
of games have that now, but then you can turn off the display for it just to get that better view.
Yeah, but the
Deathloop,
things that you
I
couldn't
no.
no, you couldn't do that with Assassin's Creed because Assassin's Creed added health to enemies also. So
There was something that I played recently that you could turn it off, but I can't remember.
it's whatchamacallit, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It,
Well, they did.
it
I'm
yeah.
talking like within the last month, I played something that had health bars that I could take off, and I don't even.
Yeah, definitely not Deathloop. Deathloop is insta kills.
Oh yeah, that I remember that now. But yeah, in any case, I'm looking forward to it, but I am also really holding myself together as much as I can because this is actually the first year I've had some actual self-discipline here.
Same.
I've caved so bad on so many games, but this year, I mean, Resident Evil 8, Far Cry,
Mhm.
Metroid Dread, several other games. I still haven't even bought Doom Eternal and
Dang.
like
And that's been on
several,
sale
a
many
good
times.
amount of games. But the problem is they all go on sale at once. So I can only justify like one or two of them maybe, and then the rest I have to like leave until the next time they
Yeah,
go on.
like recently I just got Outriders on PS5 because I played that on Game Pass. But
Yeah,
that version was kind of borked and I wanted to play like on a more better machine and it was $35 right now. So I got to buy that. Sackboy was $31. I was like, I'll wait. I have other things to pay.
exactly. It's
So
if they didn't put all of the good games on sale all at once, I would probably buy them more. But then it's
here's
like great games and then all trash.
yeah. No, here's the thing, like something that I've learned, especially with PSN sales, if a game has hit a sale in one of them and you don't buy them, don't worry. It's very likely a sale or two from now is going to be back at that price.
Yeah,
Outriders was that like 2 sales ago, and this one I was like, you know what? It's time. I saw it hasn't gone down from that price. Boom, I'm gonna get it.
yeah.
And with that, that concludes what's coming out this week. And with now, we are for the people that are watching the full thing or listening to the whole thing, we are transitioning over to what have we been playing. And for those of us that just watching the individual thing, thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry for the hilarious amount of technical issues we have, but the internet decided to be crazy today. That's not on us. And hopefully Facebook already works because I just can't imagine a lot of people are very happy with how important it is part of their life, especially with other things like Instagram and maybe even more importantly, WhatsApp.
Yes.
Paul, it's been a pleasure and I'll see you for the next recording. And remember,
Press X
to play.
Adios, everybody.
See ya.